Okay, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back. So we're 1 week removed from the big fight, Francis Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua, that happened last week, the crossover fight in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. Anthony Joshua exercised all demons, sending Francis Ngannou to the shadow realm, right? But something was revealed. Like, I heard this news before, so I believe this was before the Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou fight, that Francis Ngannou got into an altercation in a parking lot with none other than Chael Sonnen. So some of you might not know who Chael Sonnen is. Chael Sonnen's a former UFC light heavyweight and middleweight fighter. He was never a champion, although he had got close a couple of times. He was never actually a champion. So he's predominantly a wrestler, all-American wrestler or something like that. And he now has a cushy little job with the UFC, right? So basically he's Dana White's lapdog, right? There ain't a bad thing that he says about Dana White. All right. Anytime there's any narratives coming out about the UFC or stories come out of the UFC, he comes out quickly on his YouTube channel and tries to debunk or does a little bit of damage control. Something that Joe Rogan used to do for the UFC, but doesn't do so much these days. But Chael Sonnen's the new boy, right? Dana White's new guy to put out some news that is always favorable towards the UFC, right? So Chael Sonnen's obviously got a good job with the UFC. He doesn't want to, mess that up, that little paycheck that he gets from the UFC, however often it comes. So Chael Sonnen was one of the biggest cheerleaders coming out and saying that Francis Ngannou has fumbled the bag. He should never have left the UFC. He should have signed a UFC contract. And he's one of the biggest advocates that are coming out and saying that Francis Ngannou has ducked John Jones, which is an absolute lie, right? Francis Ngannou was a UFC champion. He held the belt for 3 years while John Jones sat out and was basically semi-retired, like he didn't want to come out and fight Ngannou. Ngannou called him out several times. It was almost like Ngannou was sitting outside John's house and John refused to come out. All the MMA fans know it, right? Francis Ngannou was a heavyweight champion and John Jones was just sitting on the sidelines for 3 years. The minute Francis Ngannou was, basically the minute he was released, not released, but the minute he left his contract, the contract ran out, because the UFC liked to say he was released. He wasn't released. The contract ran out. He ran the contract out, right? Then John Jones all of a sudden appears, then fights Cyril Gane to become the new UFC champion. And a lot of MMA fans weren't happy about it, saying that he fought a second-rate fighter in Gane, someone who Francis Ngannou who had already beaten. Now John Jones is refusing to fight Tom Aspinall from the UK, who is now the interim heavyweight champion. John's refusing to fight him, wants to fight Stipe Miocic, a man that hasn't fought for nearly 3 years. The last time he fought, he got knocked out viciously by Francis Ngannou. But anyway, let me play you the footage, right? I don't own the rights to this footage, but I'm just playing it purely for educational purposes. I'll play you this footage and you can hear what Chael Sonnen has to say about this altercation that he had with Francis Ngannou in a parking lot.
All right. Now, for the most part, this is between Francis and I. But Francis and I had to be separated in a parking garage. I got to tell you, you come face to face with an angry Francis in a street fight situation. So here we are. Security breaks it up, but they don't get involved. They're over my shoulder. I can hear them yelling at us, but they don't actually come over. So now we've turned and squared up. I know the same thing about fighting as everybody else.
Okay.
Watching this knows about fighting, which is whatever your father taught you. And my dad did not tell me I had to wait to defend myself. He told me when they're within arm's reach, it has begun. But Daniel, I don't want this thing to jump off. I got an ego too. I'm looking, I got these glasses. I'm thinking about he's going to crack me with these glasses. Francis, I'm doing the math too. Like, I got an ego too. You duck John Jones. I'll fight John right now. I might have to fight you right now. Like, this is going through my mind. But my son is about 12 feet away. And he's in a pair of gloves that Nate Diaz had given him. It was the Nate Diaz versus Jake Paul. Nate had given him a pair of gloves. So my son's over. He's shadow boxing. Francis doesn't know he's there. I said, Francis, not now. And he lets me know this is happening now. I've been looking for you for a while. And I took my hand and I just went like this to my son. I said, not in front of my son. Francis looks over and sees my son. Not a word did he say. Respect. He understood the code. He dropped it right there.
Right.
Kamaru Usman react.
There you go. Right. Chael Sonnen says that Francis Ngannou eventually realized that Chael Sonnen's son was in the background training, and you know, he knew the code, like, not in front of my son, please. And Francis Ngannou shows respect. Those of you who know who Francis Ngannou really is, you know that he's got an admiration, like he's like basically the children of Cameroon. He helps the children of Cameroon. He's got a little bit of a fund, like a fund where he helps the children of Cameroon. He's into like charity work, kind of big, like helping children and stuff like that. And it's one of his one of the things that he does, right? So he saw Chael Sonnen's son there, and he thought, right, I'm not going to get involved. It is what it is. One thing you need to know about Chael Sonnen is him and John Jones have had a long beef, standing beef for a while. And he's trying to get into John Jones's good books as well by trying to say Francis Ngannou touched him. Like trying to, you know, John can hear it and John can respond. And, you know, they've had a long-standing beef for a while. But anyway, enough said. It was about to kick off between Francis Ngannou and Chael Sonnen. I know where my money would have been on. But anyway, enough said. Smash that like button, hit that bell for notifications to get all the new and the latest videos.